today in physics, I mean, no anthropomorphism going on here, no giving these things human, or life or intelligence to these things. These are just, energy is energy, and it has no understanding of that it even exists. Well, I mean, that's pretty lame to me. If I'm a lower form of energy, this person I'm down here, and you're telling me, I know I exist, and then you're going to tell me that the highest levels, the most elementary, and this is what I want to say, because the words you have to say, these are called primordial elements, have no intelligence? I mean, I'm part of them. I mean, some of those atoms, and chemically and biologically and anatomically, are part of the makeup I have down here, and I know I have consciousness. So to say that they, in their primordial, powerful, like stars that create galaxies, don't have intelligence, to me, that's not a very intelligent statement. That's why I look at it. Anyways, in the Greek mythology, primordial deities are called the progenitor, and this is where you get Jesus, is the progenitor. These mean, and this is where you get the concept of the firstborn. These were the firstborn. These are the earliest entities or beings to come into existence. These are the original race of Greek gods. Okay, now the Greeks took it, actually in the Romans and the Babylonians and the Egyptians, when you got back to Sumeria, this whole concept keeps going forward, and even into the Mayans and into the Indians, Hindu Indian, this storyline is going forward. Now they're giving different, and this makes so crazy, different names, they've got different geographies. If you just try to track the names of like Satan through all the different cultures and all, it's crazy. But anyways, or even, okay, so I want you to understand, these deities, these things that were formed, that went forward to make everything else, they form all the fabric of the universe. They are in all the fabric of the universe, and as such, they are immortal. I mean, I don't think you can kill energy. How do you kill, or, and some of these things are, that came after this, you have air, and this is where the ancients used these words, and like the gods of the air, and the gods of Hades, and the gods of the deep. See, these are all, we're kind of chewed up because we don't really understand what they're saying, but fire, air, and water. We think the water is the water that we're swimming in, and it's not. It's so much more. And I just go back to the primordialness of it, because if you understand, and Paul even says we're not warring against flesh and blood down here anyways, we're warring against principalities and powers and spiritual wickedness, and these are the same words. The words thrones. They have given, if you go into even the angels, the names, the ranks of the angels, that's where give them anthromorphic understanding. See, but this is what I'm trying to do. We have to somehow bring this together, because if you read Genesis, God created when the fish, these things, the swarming things, the beasts, these are all living beings. Now that's the word. They're not even translated correctly, but those are the words used over and over consistently. Living souls. Translated beings sometimes, but living souls. So in Genesis, when it's talking about even the celestial things, the sun and the moon, when they were created, are celestial. Paul says in Romans, or I think it's in Corinthians, that he talks about not all flesh is the same flesh, and not all celestial beings are the same flesh. I mean, what is he talking about here? You talk about mixing up your anthromorphic understanding with some of the physics of the thing. But this was one of the clinchers to me too, and it's there. I mean, just go work your word. In chapter 2 of Genesis, and it says, this whole thing goes on about the creation for 6 days, and then on the 7th day, God rested. Okay? And there's a whole, the Sabbath, I mean, there's a whole understanding that is, we just think it's a day you just don't work or whatever. It's so deep, but we won't even go there. But when he made, in Genesis 20, chapter 1, verse 20, he said, let the water teem forth with living creatures. Those are living souls. We're the same thing, okay? These are categories, and we can't just assume that they don't have the level of intelligence. They were even created earlier, and if you read all the mythologies, I'll tell you a little secret what it says, like Satan, what his big beef was with Adam. One of the things was, and we get a little snippet of it here in Genesis, was, God told everyone to come and see the Adam that he had created, and he wanted everyone to submit. Now he said, this is the Adam. This is my highest form of the race of living souls that I've created, and I want you all to come and bow down, and he's going to be the head honcho now. And that was not going to fly with Satan, and Satan was absolutely livid. And this is anthromorphic. I mean, he's going to, and he's like, no. He absolutely refused to bow or to show respect, okay, unto this unbelievable creation that God had made out of all these elements. We're made of the dust of the earth. I mean, that sounds, not the dust of the earth. I mean, the sense of all the cosmic, all these primordial elements that had gone forth. We just have to get a better, because see, we'll never understand mythology. Oh my gosh, we'll never even understand our destiny. If we're destined to be lights in the firmament, we're going to be changed. To be lights in the, what does that mean? Okay, how are atoms going to change and do that? Okay, but anyways, back to Satan. He said, no, I was created on the second day. I mean, I'm like created way before this thing. I mean, I am so more full of, I don't know, probably, and that was part of his pride. I got all this early. I'm a progenitor. Okay, in other words, I'm one of the firstborns. And you're going to make me, and he said no, and he absolutely refused. See, the lack of, so this is all, there's a whole storyline to this, but I just wanted to say that it has a bigger picture to it. There is a lot of jealousy. This is the gods. Think of it, all the jealousy between the gods and all the conniving and all the things. But and I don't think I can do it in this session, we got to put this together. Okay, going back to the physics of the thing and the anthromorphic. Constant anthromorphic that is constantly coming through all texts, especially in the ancients that talk about this worldview. So anyways, but when you get down to, like I said, you have the spirit, the voice in the word, and another word that hovered, that said, that made. These are all ways of describing. The crown, see, we're going to throw our crowns down. People ask me, crowns, what are these things? What does it mean? You get into some of this literature, and I just think one of the things that really bothers me, there's a book with the scandal of the evangelical mind. I mean, we just don't think deep. And if anybody wants to ask a deep question, it's like, oh my gosh. I'm like, come on. Do you think I'm going to scare God by asking some deep questions? And if I don't get an answer, oh well, I've already, oh, it's just crazy. Anyways. Then you get into, and this is where you can even understand a little bit. Now we can go into this whole fall of what happened between the Titans and the Olympians, and then you get into what the lowest form, matter, when Gaia came on the scene, okay? Because we're just dealing here with spirit, word, and creative power, okay? Then you get into the next emanations down, you get into air, which is made from, air is made from spirit, and then water is made from air, and then fire is from the water. And then fire and water make Gaia. Okay, now this is all the ancients understood, all of this. And so what are they talking about? And it's not talking about our fire, it's not talking about the air we breathe, our atmosphere. And these are huge primordial building blocks. Okay, now one of the things, and they have intelligence. See, this is the answer. Everything that God made, he didn't make dead things. Death came in. Listen, we're under a covenant of death because we made a covenant with somebody who was already under the covenant of Satan. That's the whole point. Satan had rebelled in a tremendous way, war in heaven. Oh my gosh, the whole history of this thing. Whatever happened between day 1 and day 2 is being unpacked. There's people, and he had already entered into a state of judgment. God said, you transgressed my laws and commandments. And Satan was under a commandment of judgment, and he was going down into dissolution. And so he brought us with him when Adam and Eve, when they entered into this covenant with him, this covenant of death, we entered into in a real biological, in a real, our atoms, we were altered. And this is in the literature, how we went from a high estate. But see, we have such a Sunday school kind of first grade understanding of this thing. We need to get a really big understanding of this, in my opinion. This covenant of death, so that now our atoms change. So now that, and this is why, again, we're stuck here. You know, the only way out is to die. I mean, we have to. There's no other choice. Spirits, and especially in the mythology, they don't die. They're immortal. They don't suffer the same fate we have. We did something happen to us, okay? And this is the whole deception, and it's so interesting. It makes so much sense. But anyways, that's a little more backdrop on the garden story. But when we get into this, then you have numbers and writing and speech are part of this, how it explains like math. I mean, the world, they know, runs on math. And that's like that in and of itself is a whole emanation. Speech, you know, it says life and death are in the power of the tongue. You have to think about that on a huge. When Eve consented, when this thing went down, the life. What was the magnitude? We just think she just disobeyed God it's so much bigger, because and again you get into the geography of this thing. But anyways, Let me go to the numbers, the writing, and the speech. These are all parts and parcel, but it's not like we think in terms of just all speech. It's like, here, I'm bumping my gums, right? But, or numbers, I'm doing my checkbook, or, you know, in writing, I'm ready. These are huge. These are the primordial building blocks that go forward. And one of the interesting things, too, in the ancient Jewish lore, we'll call it that, I guess, is that Hebrew was the original language of God, okay? It was what Adam spoke. It is what all the angels spoke. It was the universal language, okay? DNA, they're finding out another interesting little understanding in this is that that DNA, okay, so now we're so look at computer codes. I mean, I was talking to my son the other day, and I can't believe the kind of stuff that they can do now. They can write codes to do. They can make whole virtual worlds that are not even, you don't even press a button, you just by sensory. We're getting back into, I think, just an unbelievable understanding of how the physics on its highest levels can work and how the world can work from the top down. And we just think it's all lifeless, and we think that these are just forces. Okay, but I said nothing that God makes is dead. Everything He makes lives forever. I mean, I hear in heaven the flowers never die. You can run through a field. I mean, there's even in popular culture today, there's testimonies. And the flowers, you run right on, they get right back up. They don't die. I mean, God. You think about it. I mean, why would He make a world that dies? It makes no sense when He is eternal. No, this is the crux. When He made the whole, and it was a recreation, but even in the beginning, He made it, and it would have hummed along forever. This is what the state of bliss, this is what the Sabbath was. It was perfect. It was finely tuned machine, and it would have gone humming along forever. And we would have been a lot happier. But corruption, and what is this? And then this is in the computer world, you can kind of really understand this thing. Like a virus came in, something foreign, something came in and just, got between the cogs of that machine and started to slow it down and started to dirty, it started to just mess it up. And this is what Genesis, and this is what it's telling us. By the time you get to, but let me go back to this statement I was going to make that in Genesis 2, where these entities, these primordial forces that God made, you can't just think of them as just non-anthromorphic forces out there. It says in chapter 2, verse 1, thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array. I think this is an NIV Bible, but couldn't be probably the worst word you could have picked. The word is armies, hosts. Or, host is even a little foreign to us, but if you put the word armies in, which you can easily do, which is translated many times, these are the armies of God. These are His created living beings who are out there, just, doing what they're told to do to make this whole creation hum and sing. Okay, these are living soul entities with free will. We just got to stop thinking of these things as all blobs of plasma or something. I don't know. But, and then again it says, and then this in verse 3 it says, this is the account of the genealogies, of the account of the heavens and the earth when they were created. And that word is the word genealogies, which is a genealogy, which is, you don't give, and the implication is like the same word where you would with the genealogy of Jesus. So-and-so came from who begot so-and-so, who begot so-and-so, who begot so-and-so. These are living souls that are procreating, and they have offspring. Back to the DNA, what I want to make a little point here is that they have found now in computer coding that the best and fastest way to decode information is to put, let me just read it. In nature, the genetic information encoded in the DNA is decoded at lightning speed by a messenger called RNA that transcribes and recombines the DNA letter into words consisting of 3 letters. These 3-letter groupings, it has been established, lie at the core of all life forms on Earth because they spell out chemically and biologically the 20 amino acids whose chains form the proteins of which all life on Earth and probably elsewhere in the cosmos, because we're the same atoms that are out there or in us, chemically and biologically, consist. And this is the thing, and this is the reason for the 3-letter Hebrew root words could be the same 3-letter DNA language. See, just don't always think of language as what I'm speaking English right now. The language of God. Okay, the very source, as we have concluded, of the alphabet of what he created. Okay, it's so much more beautiful and deep. But this DNA, there's a root. See, in the way you work at the Hebrew word, it starts with a root, and then other are combined. And when you study in Hebrew, it's always where you got to get back to the root. What was the root word? Okay, which gives the real forward movement of the understanding. So here we have DNA as being one of the in Kabbalah, and if you believe that Hebrew really is a heavenly language, which, I mean, there's no reason to doubt it. It is implied in all the texts. It says there's a verse here, and it says in, I think it's in Isaiah, it says in Isaiah 45:11, it is I who created the letters, Yahweh speaking. It is I who made the earth and created the atom upon it. So we have to look at this thing more, I'm trying to put physics and the anthropomorphic understanding, because these are living beings. Now when you look at mythology and you understand, because what my premise is, oh my gosh, and we're coming up in the end of the age and it's going to be crazy, things did not, if you read in Genesis, everything that God created was good. Everything was to reproduce after its kind. But unfortunately, that is not what happened. And the history of the Bible and the history of mankind, to a large extent, is about the war that's been going on between the recombinants, the DNA letters that did not go and reproduce as they were supposed to, but they found all sorts of ways to recombine and to make entities. And if you really get down to the bottom line, idols that other people worshipped. And we're going to next remember Paco understand what an idol is, and this gets into the whole concept of the mark of the beast. There is just, it just floors me how, people are, again, I don't know why I pick on it, but playing, what is it, Candy Crush and Farmville, and the world is just spinning to its conclusion on, we're on this little ball that's spinning through space right now to its conclusion, and oh well, we're going to meet our Maker soon. So, all I can say is there's only one name given unto heaven, God, who says he is compassionate and full of mercy and will forgive. He will forgive anything because all he wants is you to come back, receive what he's offered, a new birth. You got that recombinant DNA again that'll last forever. That's what the new heaven and the new earth are going to be, coming down out of heaven. They're going to just hum on forever. Again, this virus, or the vine that was planted, the tares that were planted that were not of the Father, are going bye-bye. So anyways, this is my spiel for tonight. I hope you enjoyed it, but I hope you gleaned something. So pray hard, love your neighbor, but most importantly, love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength.